Question 100. Lymph drainage of the upper limb and thorax. Lymph vessels of the upper limb are drained into lymph into the axillary lymph nodes. We have division into superficial and deep lymph vessels. The superficial lymph vessels start in the digital plexus of the hand and accompanies the superficial veins. We have lateral group of lymph vessels which ascends along the cephalic vein. We have medial group of lymph vessels which accompanies the basilic vein. And then we have the anterior group which ascends in the middle of the forearm. Then we have the deep lymph vessels, which accompany brachial artery and all its branches. Then we come to the axillary lymph nodes. We have the superficial, which receive lymph from the superficial vessels and are drained into the deep axillary lymph nodes, which we can see here. This is the clavicle, deltoid deus muscle, axilla, mammary gland. The deep axillary lymph nodes are divided into 5 groups. They receive lymph from the superficial axillary lymph nodes and from the deep lymph vessels. We have the brachial or lateral group, which receives lymph from the free upper limb, drained by deep and superficial lymph vessels. We have the pectoral or anterior group, which is placed near the inferior margin of pectoralis minor muscle and receives lymph vessels from the supraumbilical part of trunk, anterior and lateral surfaces, including the mammary gland. Then we have the subscapular or posterior group, which is located along the subscapular vessels. It drains lymph from the inferior of the back of neck and from the dorsal side of trunk up to the iliac crest. Then we have the central group, which lies along the upper margin of pectoralis minor muscle. It receives lymph from the brachial, subscapular and pectoral groups. Then we have the apical or subclavian or infraclavicular group, which surrounds the subclavian artery. It receives lymph vessels arising from the central nodes and the efferent vessels arising from the apical axillary lymph nodes join to form the subclavian trunk, and the right subclavian trunk opens into the right brachiocephalic vein in angulus venosus, and on the left side you have left subclavian trunk, which terminates into the thoracic duct, which opens into the left brachiocephalic vein in also angulus venosus. So the pectoral, subscapular and brachial lymph nodes drain into the central lymph nodes, and the central lymph nodes drain into the apical lymph nodes, which drain into the subclavian trunk into the brachiocephalic vein.